Hey guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 4. If you've missed some of the other vlogs that I have, make sure you find them on my website, DrCliffAuD.com, if you're interested. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the loan process that we went through to get this space that I'm standing in right now. I do have the camera positioned a little bit differently today, so we don't get as much of that window glare on the camera. But nonetheless, when we started going through this process of getting the loan, we essentially had this decision to make of whether we would go conventional or whether we would go with an SBA loan. And the SBA loan is essentially like a government-backed loan to take some of the financial burden away from the individual who is borrowing the money. And so we took a look at what the differences were between the two. And it basically came down to a lower down payment for us. And instead of going conventional where we would have to spend around 25% down payment, with the SBA, we only had to spend about 15% down payment, which is a huge amount of money when you look at how much it costs to actually buy the building and then build out the space. So we decided to go with an SBA loan, and I'm going to go ahead and break this down for you guys here, the loan structure for that, and I'm going to put an overlay up while I'm explaining this. So what we have on this estimate is for the land and building around $305,000, and for building improvements was around $204,000 for a total projected cost of just over $500,000. And this is a little bit off from what we had actually closed on, and I'll probably go over that in a future video perhaps. And then if we go down to the bottom here and look at the finance structure, this is what I mean by going through the SBA essentially, is that you have a bank loan, then you have the arrangement with the SBA, and then you have the down payment that you have to put down. And so when you look at it, the loan from the actual bank, which is Foothills Bank that we used, was 50% of that loan amount. And then 35% of that is through the SBA. And then the other 15% is the responsibility of us in the form of a down payment. But if we bump back up to the top right-hand corner of this page, you can see what the estimated monthly payments would be based off of those loan amounts that I showed you on the bottom of this sheet. And so for the bank loan, so for that $254,000 portion of the loan, the monthly payment would be $1,400, and then for the SBA portion, which is that second portion there of the 35%, the monthly payment would be $975. So when you combine those two together, it comes out just under $2,400 a month. And again, that is not including the down payment essentially that we had to pay. And our down payment ended up being, I think it was around $86,000, which is more money than I think I've ever spent on anything. I mean, I drive a 10-year-old Prius, so definitely not someone who likes to spend that much money on basically anything. I don't even own a house, so. But that just kind of breaks it down. The interest rate for the actual bank loan is 4.5%, and I think we ended up getting that down to 4.25%. And then the SBA portion, that was loaned out at, I think it was 3.63%. I'll have to get some clarification. Again, these are just the estimate numbers that we got from the lender. The thing that I kind of really want to talk about is the aspect that 60-day close is what we were recommended going with an SBA loan, and based on the experience that we just went through, 60 days is like nowhere even close to how much time we would really need to do a closing and feel like you're actually going to hit that closing time. I mean, we were probably 30 days into it before the lenders, the SBA and the bank actually had all of the documentation that they needed, and we were trying to get them everything as quickly as we possibly could. But when you have to wait a little bit on financials, and then the other parties weren't really talking to each other that well, it was just this kind of this chaotic process where we had never gone through anything like this before, so we didn't really know what to expect, and we were relying on the lenders to kind of fill us in and get the ball rolling and keep it rolling. But there's things like you have to have appraisals done. You had to have the estimates for the budget of how much it would cost to build out this place. So we had to get in touch with an architect to get the drawings laid out, which I'll show you in a future video. We had to get a hold of our general contractor and get a budget from them. So when we're going to the bank for the loan, they can know how much they're going to have to put into the loan to get the place built out. And the entire time, you got to remember that the banks are really trying to protect themselves as well. They don't want to lend too much money and then essentially have a situation where we default on the loan or something like that, and they're left holding the bill. And so all of that stuff was really highly scrutinized in the whole process, but that makes the process take longer. And then you have three parties involved. You don't just have the borrower and the bank. You have the borrower, the bank, and the SBA involved. So everyone has to be on the same page. You're basically giving double the documentation, and you need to make sure that everyone's getting that stuff in a timely manner. And even with doing that, we barely closed in a 3-month time period because we essentially had to request an extension. So we were looking at a early December close. So it was around December 4th or something like that off the top of my head. And it was pretty evident that we were not going to close in time. And so we ended up requesting an extension. So we formally submitted a request through our realtor, and the seller was not very happy with that. Basically, the seller sent us an email back saying that, well, if we're going to delay closing, then I want the escrow money released to me. I want an additional $2,000 to cover what I would lose by not investing the sale price of the building in the market. So we're basically making sure that he got a nice, 5% interest rate, so on and so forth. And I'm just like, whatever. I just don't even want to deal with this guy anymore. So we agreed to all of that. And the lender was actually really good because there was some confusion on this whole entire process, and making sure that communication was really good through all three of those parties. Actually, the bank gave us a credit of that $2,000 because they felt like they were responsible for that to some degree. So that ended up going over pretty well. And once we had that additional 30-day extension, it still was a pretty heavy push to try to get everything done in time so we could actually close in the beginning of September, October, November. Okay, so the original close was in November, originally for November, like November 4th. We had to extend it to December 4th. And so we had to push pretty hard, and then you have a holiday in there, so we had the Thanksgiving holiday, which kind of was a little bit difficult to navigate around, but we ended up having the closing scheduled for the beginning of December. Now, then, once we got everything and everything looked like it was going to be done on time, like roughly within a week's time frame, the question was, okay, well, when are we going to sign these closing documents? So the title company was saying that, well, we're going to, we don't know exactly when we're going to get those documents completed, but we need you to come down here to the title company office to sign all of these documents and to go through everything about the loan. And my schedule's super busy. I mean, when I'm at the office, I have people on my schedule who've been on my schedule for a month trying to get in to see me, and I don't want to just cancel on them last minute to go downtown Phoenix and sign all of these documents. In hindsight, we probably should have selected a title company that was a little bit closer to where my office is. That would have made it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, it was, everyone just assumed that I could just drop everything that I'm doing on a whim and go down and sign these closing documents. So there was a lot of back and forth with that. And in the middle of all of this, the seller, again, was basically like, I'm upset that this whole process is taking so long, and I'm not going to give you that $200 credit to repair the things that were wrong with the space. And I'm thinking that this is ridiculous. He actually signed the amendment to the contract saying that we were going to extend the deadline for the closing with all of these other stipulations, and he's just like, I'm not going to pay you that money that I'm contractually obligated to pay because it's in the contract. And I'm just like, this is a new level of individual to me. It's something I've never really dealt with in my life before. But nonetheless, I'm kind of just like, I just need this guy to not be part of my life anymore. And I'm thankful that he's not a part of my life anymore. Of course, I'm talking about him here, so I guess he gets the last laugh. Anyway, we ended up getting a mobile notary to help us close or sign the closing documents on the building. Now, the problem with the mobile notary is that they don't really explain a whole lot to you on the closing documents. Fortunately, our realtor showed up during that time period so she could explain everything that was on the closing documents, but it really helped because I didn't have to take off a half day to go downtown to sign all these documents. So the lesson of all of this, really, when you're going to be purchasing a commercial property, at least in my experience, is that if you're going to do an SBA loan, I think the SBA loan was really great. I mean, it saved us a lot of money up front in the down payment, which was absolutely worth it in the end, but it's a longer process. You got more parties involved. There's a lot more communication difficulties that can happen in that entire process. And then you've got a lot of stuff to do. Unless you literally have been planning this, for a couple months and have everything ready to go by the time you make the offer on the property, I just don't see how it's even realistic that you could have a closing with an SBA loan done in 45 to 60 days with all the appraisals and having to have all the build out done, planned out and budgeted. It's just not realistic. So if you ever go through a commercial property investment to any degree, just be aware that this process takes a long time. And I'm glad that we got through it all. Everything, my wife was amazing in it. She really handled a lot of the banking type stuff and interacting with these different individuals from the SBA and from the bank. So that was phenomenal. I would not be standing here if she didn't take care of all of that, because again, I'm super busy with my patients in the clinic. So I'm super excited that we got through with all of it. That is it for this vlog, and I will probably be making another vlog next week. Haven't decided what it's going to be on yet. Might be talking about the build out or the layout that we're going to have in here. I might go a little bit more into the actual loan documents, but there's not really, that probably won't be very exciting. So we'll see what we end up doing on that next one. But if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Make sure you check out my website, DrCliffAuD, and I will see you next week.